My name is David Fleschler. I am the Associate Provost for International Affairs, and I want to thank Marilyn Mobley and Liz Rocafort and all the others who asked me to lead off this lunch. As most of you probably recognize, international and diversity really go hand in hand. So I started about 11 months ago in my position, and in fact, the Office of International Affairs was created 11 months ago, and I'm the first person in that office. And there are a number of challenges that we are starting to look at. Study abroad, bringing students to the campus from countries all around the world. How do we create and continue research partnerships around the world? What kind of relationships does this university have with other universities, not just in an exchange way, because we have many of those, but in a deeper, more fundamental way? And how do we think about that? And frankly, how do we think about higher education in general in a global world? But underlying all of those issues is really the issue of diversity, because anybody that comes to this campus from anywhere around the world is coming to a very different environment. And any time that we go out anywhere in the world, we're going to a very different environment. And as that's true globally, that's clearly also true locally, because anybody that comes to Case Western Reserve University, be it from Akron or California or Bangalore in India, is coming to a different environment, to a different place, with a different group of people than they've been with before. And the beauty of this university and the beauty of higher education in general is this is the place where we can learn to work together, to play together, to think together, because once students leave from Case Western, they're going out into a world that is increasingly diverse, and where ultimately, if you don't understand how other people think, and you don't understand the cultures that other people carry with them, you're not going to be able to be successful either professionally or personally. So this celebration of diversity today, while we call it a celebration of diversity, it is a celebration of international relations. It's a celebration of global diversity, and it's something we should keep on the top of our minds, I think, that this is what the university is really all about. So thank you for allowing me to welcome all of you here. Marilyn is coming up next, I believe, to talk about what we're really doing here and what we're celebrating. And I invite you all to not only think about diversity in a global context, but to work on it with people around the table and in your classrooms and in your dormitories and anywhere we are in this campus. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So glad you all are here. Thank you, David, so much for your welcome and opening remarks. We really do appreciate the ways you have helped me continue to talk about what I began talking about when I first arrived, however many months ago it was. What's the number? I don't know what the number is, but January 5th is when I arrived. So ever since I arrived, I've been talking about the connection between domestic diversity and global diversity, or local diversity and global diversity. So I really do thank you that in your work as Associate Provost, you've been helping us do this work as well. I also just want to thank all of you for coming. You know, when you plan an event, you know everybody's busy and you don't know who's going to show up. So you all showed up, and I am very happy, as is my team. So with all the members of my team, if they're not outside the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity, could you just stand or wave? Liz is peeking out the door, but she is my wonderful, wonderful person who helped plan this event. So I really want to thank my team in particular for this. As I think about the work of inclusion, diversity, and equal opportunity, which is the title of the position, and I really appreciate that President Snyder is at another event, but is taking time out of her schedule to come. She's going to be here in a little bit, about 30 minutes or so. She has said she will be joining us. But I remember thinking about this position not only as a faculty member, but as a scholar, as an academic leader. And so when I began thinking about it, I started, what's the word, ruminating about, so what's the vision? And so what you see on the back of our program is the vision for the office. It took a great deal of time to think about it because it connects the dots for me. I hope it connects the dots for you. And so that vision statement is on the back, and that is that we are promoting diversity through our office through inclusive thinking, mindful learning, and transformative dialogue. And as I indicated in the report, some of you may have seen this report back in January. At the MLK convocation, we, at President Snyder's request, did a kind of state of diversity address. Some of the information about our office is there, but more importantly, this is what many of you have been doing all around the campus. It's an attempt to celebrate, even in January, what has been happening even before I arrived. And it is about celebrating some of the efforts that we have been continuing. So I hope that as you review that book and as you think about what we need to do, that you will share that with us. We see our work as having 5 pillars. That is diversity research and assessment. That's the data collection, review of best practices, review of the climate on the campus. Diversity education, that's communication and visibility about opportunities for learning. David even referred to that. If nothing else, we're an institution of higher education. We're a community of learners. Diversity programming, that is communication and visibility for opportunities for dialogue, one of which is this very program. We're also very much focused on a pillar of compliance, and that is laws, policies, local and state federal guidelines related to recruitment and retention of students, faculty, staff, hiring, promotion, and tenure of faculty, and so on. And then the last pillar is community engagement. Communication and visibility for collaborations both internally and externally. So we're very happy. Joining us today are some of our community partners, and I don't know who all the community partners are. I know a few of them. I know one of them is Melena Albright from AT&T. Are there other community partners who are present and you'd like to stand, corporate or otherwise? Okay, so I only pointed out one, that's it. All right, so I'm sharing with you that this is an opportunity to recognize those on our campus who we believe have been diversity champions, they've been diversity change agents, and when we think of higher education, we are now thinking not only of race and gender. We do not empty out race and gender in diversity work. It is also, however, sexual expression and identity, its ethnicity, its age, its religion, its disability, its national origin, which David alluded to, it's even veteran status. So we have broadened the definition of diversity, even as we've kept some of the key tenets of diversity work, we have broadened it to be even more inclusive. Last year for this event, and I'm so excited we can say this is a signature event because it's the second time. I took that liberty. So in any event, it's now a signature event, but last year I took the liberty of recognizing Dr. Rhonda Williams, who I don't think could be with us today, but we launched it by recognizing a very well-known and dynamic faculty leader. This time we broadened the process. There was a nomination process. Many of you voted on these people who we are going to be recognizing today. So I'm really excited that today it also represents a more inclusive moment in that you have participated in who we are recognizing today. So as David was suggesting, there are all kinds of ways we're doing this work. We're thinking about being a learning community and what that means if we are educating local, national, and global citizens. How do we show up as a community for our stakeholders, as diverse constituents, students, faculty, and staff, alumni? How are we showing up for all these people that we are connected to? And we are interconnected. And we have this opportunity to think about how are our efforts going. So on your tables, as we did last year, we are using this as an opportunity for transformative dialogue. So I hate to be a little directive here, but there is a tent on your table. It doesn't matter what you've been talking about up to now. Right now, your conversation has to be about your tent. So we're asking you to share with your table colleagues your thoughts about your table topic. And I'd like for you to select one person who will at some point be asked to stand up and report out on your table. And we see this as part of the work we're doing. I'm so grateful today that around the table I have members of my Diversity Leadership Council. If you are part of the Diversity Leadership Council, could you please stand? Members of that council, thank you so much for standing. I want to thank the Diversity Leadership Council. They helped me prepare for Provost Bazelak's leadership meetings, and they, in addition to President Snyder, Provost Bazelak, the deans, vice presidents, and so many of your offices and departments have been helping us do this work. So I really do see this as a community moment. Our office is sponsoring it, but it's a community moment to celebrate what so many of us have done. So I'm asking you to think together, talk together about the topic that's on your table. And I want to leave you with a quote. I get to come back to the microphone later, but I want you to think about this quote from our late President John F. Kennedy, who said, "If we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity." And so I want you to think about how that statement from President Kennedy is connected to the statement that's on your table. But from now on, your talk is not about the Cavaliers or any of that. Your talk right now is about the table topic that's on your tables. Thank you and welcome.
I think in my environment in finance and campus.
Now we're going to move to reporting. I'm asking each table to select one person, and that one person is going to report out one highly significant statement. You can't report on the whole conversation, but I'm asking you to point out at least one significant thing from your table.
My name is Danielle Morris, and I am from the Controller's Office, and I have been volunteered by the people at my table to let you guys know what we discussed. And our question today was, in your experience, how does a diversity of people, viewpoints, and experience contribute to an environment of inclusive excellence at CWRU? Wow, that was a lot. So to sum up all those words and how we all discuss diversity and inclusiveness in our own areas, I think in my world, I'm in the Controller's Office, so in my world, it's about paper and numbers. So how diverse is that? So then we'll get to students and the labs. I think that's more inclusive as to what Case Western Reserve University is about, because we are here to service our students and our faculty. And I think that the example that was given to us today about the postdocs and an interview process that their department went through was to include the other lab technicians and the postdoc students in the interviewing process. And what that did was it allowed for them to provide feedback as well as to give some type of environment enhancement for the person that was being interviewed. Sometimes we ourselves are not allowed that opportunity to assist with the interviewing process. So we thought that that was a very good idea, that that person was allowing the team members of their department to be involved in the interviewing process and aid in picking someone that would be inclusive to their area. So that was our big topic of today.
My name is Roberta B., and I'm from the School of Nursing, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow there. What we talked about was the fact that because we have different communities, people from different parts of the United States and other places, that Case Western Reserve University is also flavored the outlying community. I've lived in other places to include foreign countries, and people are there, but they're all very, very segregated. Here, people blend foods, cultures, and is out in the community. Your children can go to school with people from different cultures. And Alan even said that, and Lynn talked about how people have said that Cleveland is the outer border of the eastern coast, and I kind of like that. So that was the topic of our conversation.
My name is David Singer. I'm in the mathematics department, and I got volunteered. To talk about an area of success, namely in my department, what we've experienced has been a significant improvement in the gender balance within our department. We now have 4, if I've counted correctly, female faculty, including the chairman of our department, the chairperson of our department. Right? We have several female graduate students. We have some wonderful female math majors, including one who was a member of the team that just placed first in the mathematics competition last week at the spring meeting of the Ohio MAA. And the effect of all that has been that the climate within the Department for Learning Mathematics has clearly improved. It's improved for all of us. And it's very gratifying. It's taken a lot of years to get to this point. I think we still have a lot of work to do. We now have our first 2 African-American graduate students, and recruiting in that area is quite difficult nationwide in mathematics, and I think very important. But I think we are moving in a very positive direction here in Case.
That one of the most important things is that it's very interesting how different we all are, but what's more interesting is how alike we all are.
We talked a lot about, my name is Diwakar, I'm from MSAS, I'm a doctoral student there. We talked about how we have 4 generations in the workforce now. I don't remember all the monikers for the generations. Actually, I don't know if we could list all of them.
Baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, millennials?
Millennials. So anyway, as we were talking about how we have 4 generations in the workforce, one thing we realized is we're not always right. I mean, between generations, how we have to understand how to look at things from other perspectives, and that's what.
I am Carol Conti-Enton, have the privilege of associating with Case Western Reserve through my husband who's on the faculty. And we have a soundbite for you. Without diversity, we wouldn't have a university. A university brings together people who otherwise wouldn't associate. The result is an increased level of creativity. As one member of our table pointed out, it's perhaps harder for businesses to replicate the diversity that a university has been striving for quite a long time.
Hi, Lisa Dunnigan from the Office of Undergraduate Admission, and our table took a slightly different approach. We started with the thought that cultural competence and inclusive excellence is a moving target, and without diversity of thought, it's hard to define if you're moving in that direction, because if everyone thinks the same way, you think you are inclusive. And so you need to have those with differing experiences and viewpoints so that you really can understand where you're going in the direction of inclusion. But the other part of it, we sort of thought about how do people contribute to that in that environment of inclusion. And we divided up that there can only be partial contribution by the presence of people with diverse backgrounds, experiences, and viewpoints, because the institution has a responsibility of creating the environment so those with diverse viewpoints and perspectives and experiences can share them willingly and openly and be retained in that environment. So those people can't necessarily be solely responsible for creating the environment.
My name is Mylena Albright. I'm the Director of External Affairs at AT&T, and I just happened to get a piece of paper in front of my seat, so I guess that meant I had to be the speaker. But we took the approach of how organizations, especially universities, have to be very direct in their approach to making sure for post-secondary education that they make a targeted effort at diversity to bring in diverse students who would then lead to bring diverse ideas and then hopefully very good positive solutions. And to carry that further, those same students will go into the corporate community, and it's important to engage that knowledge and skill set to take that into the corporate world so that when it's time to reach that diverse clientele who you're trying to sell to or who you're trying to appeal to, that's something they have carried with them all the way. So thank you.
I am Janice Sigmund-Williams from the Center for Civic Engagement and Learning. And I will tell Dr. Mobley, we apologize in advance for not answering your question. We chose not to answer. And my table also told me that since I had done this last year, that I was probably the most well-versed person to do it, so they were asking me to do it again this year. So one of the things that Dr. Dorothy Miller reminded us is that we don't know what we don't know until we choose to share. So the way that we chose to respond to this question was to go around the table and share. And one of the things that we found out is, as this table did over here, is that in many ways that we are alike, but we're also very different. And that the fact that we are alike and diverse makes us have more opportunities to do this work together, because regardless of the path that we chose to get here, we're all here together.
My name is Isaac Dukes. I'm a second-year student here at Case Western University. I'm a sociology and philosophy major, also pre-law and minor in ethnic studies. Well, our table will just answer your question basically from my viewpoint. Well, I like the title of the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity, because I believe all three of them actually go hand in hand, very much. You know, because without diversity, then there can absolutely be no inclusion, because you wouldn't know who to include. If everybody is the same, then why does it matter that, you know, why would we include something different? I mean, it would be a clash of viewpoints, I guess. And it provides a full experience, I guess. Diversity involves, you know, in my experience, I've been to, you know, ISA meetings, you know, I've seen Indian dance, I've seen, you know, Asian culture, things that from my high school I've never been exposed to in my life. So I guess that's basically it.
I'm also a sophomore at Cleveland Heights High School, and for our main topic, it was more of dealing with not only Case Western Reserve University, but more of at a high school standpoint. And I know from experience, it's helped me learn more different languages, and also just it gives you a broader outlook on things, and more for educational outlooks. It helps you understand more things dealing with education.
At this time, we are so happy that President Snyder has been able to join us, and she will now come and announce our honorees.
I'm really delighted to be here to honor three extraordinary individuals. Last year, the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity recognized a single person. That, of course, was the incomparable Professor Rhonda Williams, who is a longtime advocate for diversity on our campus. But I'm delighted that this year the office expanded the number of awards to include faculty, staff, and student representation. Not only does this change mean we get to learn more about remarkable individuals every year, but it also underscores a crucial point. That is that advancing diversity and inclusion is a responsibility that we all share on our campus. Now, to be sure, Dr. Mobley and her staff worked tirelessly on these issues, and the Diversity Leadership Council and a number of other organizations and committees make important contributions. But our strategic plan identifies diversity as a core value, not something that a few people support or it should be focused in just a few offices, but something that is essential to who we are as a university. And that means it has to permeate everything we do. I am sorry that I cannot stay for the formal part of the award ceremony. I am out of breath because I ran over here. I am triple booked right now, so I will be seen in 3 places almost all at once. But it's amazing how we can do that. But this program is so important that I left some guests over in the Delbert Hall to be able to get here to do this. And it's really great for me to be able to offer personal congratulations to the award winners. I want to start with Professor Jonathan Anton. Come up here, Jonathan. One of the great parts of my job is that I get to say wonderful things about wonderful people and have them stand up here next to me while I do it. Jonathan, I remember when we were both young law professors. We were so young. I joined the law faculty in 1983 and Jonathan the next year in 1984. And from the moment he arrived at our law school and on our campus, Jonathan demonstrated his commitment to all that is right, to justice, to preparing students to serve that value in his classes and across the community of lawyers that we have in our alumni community and in the Northeast Ohio community. Jonathan, your work with Fred Gray, your courses on constitutional law and civil rights, your dedication to our students, I think above all, makes you a most deserving recipient of this award, so congratulations. I'm going to have Jonathan stay here while I call up Letitia James. These awards are very special because I know all of the winners this year. It's so great. Letitia, stand right up here. Now, Letitia, as many of you know, is the director of the Center for Community Partnerships. Before I began serving as president, I knew that her office was in the process of conducting an inventory to get a better idea of the service that is done on behalf of Case Western Reserve by our faculty, our staff, our students, all across the greater Cleveland area. The final tally actually sounds pretty astounding. In 2006-2007, Case Western Reserve dedicated 160,000 volunteer hours to more than 500 organizations in Northeast Ohio. Isn't that great? Now that, of course, reflects the sense of civic spirit and volunteerism that permeates our community here, but it also highlights the amazing work that Letitia does, both in coordinating contacts between university groups and outside organizations, and in nurturing that spirit of engagement across campus. Every year, the Center for Community Partnerships sponsors Case for Community Day, among many other things, and every year it just grows larger and larger and does more and more great work across our community. I am so proud to be part of a campus where community engagement is that important. And Letitia, it's thanks to you. So, we're going to get our picture taken right there. All right, stay right here. Don't go anywhere. Our student honoree, Jason Bachman, is unable to be with us today. I think he's a fourth-year medical student. He had one or two things on his plate. But we are so lucky that we have Brian Edwards here to accept his award. I want all of you to know what an impressive student Jason Bachman is. He is, as I said, a fourth-year medical student, and while juggling all of the academic demands, they are, by the way, in their clinical rotations, and in the fall, of course, they're applying for their, and going around traveling, doing interviews for their residencies that he will start next year. While juggling all of this, he helped us launch an extraordinary partnership with the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine that is housed at John Hay High School. And because of his extraordinary work, his engagement with that program, he was able to help 50 of his classmates see that this was really a good thing to do. And now they have contributed collectively, Jason and his colleagues, to the kind of program that drew the attention of the Joan C. Edwards Foundation, and Brian is the director of that foundation. We are so lucky to have Brian McDonald here with us because in some ways his work speaks to, or his grant to us earlier this year speaks more to the work that Jason did than perhaps anything I can say. They recognize the relationship between our medical students and our university and the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine and decided to give a grant that will allow one student per year who graduates from the John Hay Cleveland School of Science and Medicine beginning in the fall of 2011 with a full scholarship for 4 years of undergraduate work here at Case Western Reserve, followed by 4 years of medical school, followed by an extraordinary opportunity for a residency program at university hospitals. So it really is an incredible opportunity. And I want you to know that this has been such a collaborative effort. Jason's been involved. We've had faculty members from the School of Medicine. Jason's own society dean, Bob Haney, has been deeply involved in this program. And it really was a testament to their work that that Brian McDonald and the trustees of the Joan Edwards Foundation found us and our program and decided to make this program the subject of this incredible grant. And I'm pleased to tell all of you, if you don't know, I got a letter from the principal of the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. His name is Ed Weber, and he's really a tremendous leader and does a great job as principal, telling me that 7 of the students who are graduating in the first class this spring have been admitted as freshmen at Case Western Reserve University. I know Jason couldn't be here, Brian, but we're so glad that you could be here with us. Thank you for recognizing the potential of the program we have and for really recognizing the work that Jason and his colleagues did as students to make this program something that was really special. I do have to run. We're going to take a couple pictures.
So now we're ready for each of our awardees to receive their award. You have the bio and the program for each of our awardees, and I'd like to just add a little bit to what President Snyder said about Jonathan Enton. When I asked him to serve on the Diversity Leadership Council, he didn't blink, he didn't hesitate, he simply said yes. I attended a few law school events where he was present as Associate Dean. When the BALSA students had their event, Ashley, he was there. There have been some other events at the law school that I have attended, programs that are an example of how he demonstrates his commitment to diversity. So it is with great pleasure that I present him with his award. Professor Enton. I'd like to tell you what the award says. It says the Inclusion and Diversity Achievement Award presented to Professor Jonathan Enton for excellence in leadership and continued commitment to inclusion, diversity, social justice, research, and scholarship at Case Western Reserve University. Thank you. I'd like to give you a hug. You have a moment.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is a terrific honor for me. Before I get into my remarks, I just want to make a couple of preliminary comments. I'm sorry that President Snyder had to leave. As she said, we were junior colleagues together, and we worked together on a number of diversity-related initiatives in the law school these many years ago. It's a real pleasure to know that we have a university whose president has a long-standing commitment to these issues that goes way beyond lip service. The other preliminary comment I want to make is that it's pretty sobering to think that it took 3 of us to stand in for Rhonda Williams this year, and that says a lot about her. Now, somewhat seriously, diversity-related issues have been pretty central to my life and to how I've come to be here. One of my most striking memories as a child is the point in the Seder where it is said, once we were slaves and now we were free. When that happens, it has perhaps more force when your father is named Moses, as mine was. But it also makes you look around at the world that you live in. And in looking around at the world that I lived in, there was lots to do. And so from a fairly early point, I was involved in a variety of civil rights and civil liberties related matters, first in the Boston area where I grew up, and that helped to shape what I wanted to do with myself when I went off to college and to graduate school, where I had the privilege of working with some remarkable scholars who have made substantial contributions to our understanding of diversity. It also led me to spend a couple of years as the state director of the Arizona affiliate of the American Civil Liberties Union, which led me ultimately to law school. But one of the things from that experience in Arizona that stands out is that we spent some time dealing with issues about how the authorities around the state treated members of the various Native American tribes, particularly the Navajo Nation and the Hopi tribe. We were fortunate to be able to do some things that led to some lasting reforms in communities around northern Arizona. And my experience with that and my earlier studies, as I said, ultimately led me to law school. I was one of the oldest people in my class, and I knew that if constitutional law and civil rights courses didn't work for me, that was probably a wrong turn, and fortunately they did work out for me. That led me to an extraordinary first job as a lawyer. I was a law clerk to then Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. And some of you probably know that now Justice Ginsburg was a pioneering human rights lawyer of her own. She was involved in virtually every important and a few less important cases involving gender discrimination, and largely through her efforts, the law in this area looks dramatically different than it did before she got into this business. One thing led to another. I wound up here in 1984, the year after President Snyder joined the faculty. As I said, we've worked together on a variety of things all those years ago. One of the things that happened to me early on was that the university and the law school gave me some opportunities that I could never pay for. Virtually in my first year, we had as a leading lecturer at the law school the late Judge Leon Higginbotham, who himself was an extraordinary scholar and lawyer. Judge Higginbotham took an interest in some of my research, and that led to a very close working relationship and personal friendship that lasted until his death. In fact, in a way, that relationship is still going on because Judge Higginbotham's nephew is a law professor on the East Coast, and we're still in touch on a pretty regular basis. The other extraordinary opportunity President Snyder alluded to, not long after I got here, I learned that one of our alumni, Fred Gray, who was a young African-American college student in Montgomery, Alabama around 1950, and he decided that he wanted to become a lawyer so that he could, as he put it, destroy everything segregated he could find. And so Fred Gray came here. Some of my students have heard me say this. The state of Alabama actually subsidized part of his legal education, apparently to get him out of the state. Fred Gray went home after he graduated, and not long after he got home, Rosa Parks got arrested on the bus. Fred Gray was her lawyer. That sparked the Montgomery bus boycott that was organized by a community group called the Montgomery Improvement Association. Fred Gray was the MIA's lawyer. The MIA was led by a previously unknown young minister named Martin Luther King. Fred Gray was his lawyer as well. Indeed, Fred Gray was a major player in 4 landmark Supreme Court decisions in his first 10 years out of law school. I can tell you, since I've had the pleasure and the privilege of staying in his house, that he is nearly 80 years old. He is still practicing law, and we have remained very close over the years. I should say, and this is the point that I know my students have heard me say, if you go back to those folks in Alabama who decided to subsidize Fred Gray's legal education, from a segregationist standpoint, it is hard to imagine a worse expenditure of public funds than sending Fred Gray to law school here. Now, we have a lot to do. We've made a good deal of progress, but we have plenty to do. We have no reason to be complacent. I take this award as a very high honor. I really appreciate it, but we need to keep working, and I hope that you will join me in continuing to work. Thanks very much.
We have so much that separates us or that makes us different, and we have so much that connects us. And I think that's true. Those who've heard me call myself the both-and lady know that I believe in that there are things that make us different, and there are lots of ways that we are working together, or as Dorothy Height, who is a civil rights leader who we just lost, thank you, Janice, for sending the note to all of us, she says we're all in the same boat. So I appreciate the way that's true. One person who knows that is Letitia James. I want to say about Letitia and Alfie Chapman Walter that when I first got here, they felt like my escorts. They were escorting me everywhere. They were always telling me where I was supposed to go, and Letitia was always sending me emails, Dr. Mobley, I think you should be here. Dr. Mobley, I think you should be there. So I was running all around thanks to her, but it just says something about her spirit. I love her spirit. I love the way she cares about our campus community, she cares about the external community, and she cares about us being connected. And so it gives me great, it's a great privilege to give you this honor. Please come up. We're always hugging. The Inclusion and Diversity Achievement Award is presented to Letitia James for continued commitment to a culture of inclusion that encourages relationship building and diverse dialogue on campus and in the community.
Hello. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Mobley, and the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity for today's award. It really means a lot to me. I'm very honored and blessed by it, so much so that I invited my parents and my son to join me for this occasion. And I'd really like to, just use this opportunity also to thank everybody who's been so supportive to me and the work that the office does over the years. You've really just been so supportive to me, and I thank you. I'd also, even though she's not here, I would like to thank President Snyder for her unwavering support ever since she's arrived on campus. I think it's wonderful to have a leader who really knows all of her employees by name and intimately knows the work that you do on behalf of the campus and the community. So I want her to know how much I appreciate that. And I wrote a little cheat sheet for myself so that I didn't forget what I wanted to say, specific to the award that Dr. Mobley is recognizing me for. And I was asked to just briefly share how the center addresses diversity through inclusive thinking, mindful learning, and transformative dialogue. And initially I thought about, the obvious answers, which are the signature programs that the office coordinates year round. And one of them, most of you probably know, is Case for Community Day. I mean, I think that's just such a poster child for diversity in action, in my opinion. That's where, hundreds of our faculty, our staff, our students, and even our alumni come together to volunteer in the community. And just that event alone is our own, United Nations of every ethnic background you could think of, or age, or gender, religious. None of it matters when we are serving the needs of the community, and the community in which we serve is diverse. And but then it made me think about also how diverse our community outreach programs are, and how they impact every aspect of a person's life, whether they're a baby, or whether it's prenatal care to when they actually become a senior citizen. We have programs, community outreach programs, that really do address every sector of a person's life, which is awesome. And it made me realize how much of a pivotal role we play in addressing diversity and inclusion head on. And some are very subliminal, but others are also more intentional. and that most people may not necessarily associate community outreach with the work of diversity inclusion, but in my opinion, I think it's where the rubber meets the road. You know, it's where action of diversity actually takes place. Because when you serve the needs of the community, you must be receptive to include others who may look different than you. In order to serve the needs of the community, you need to learn to be open, to learn from someone who may think a lot differently than you. And to serve the needs of the community, you need to be able to listen to others who may talk a lot differently than you. And serving the needs of the community is the place where transformation truly happens. Transformation not only in service to the community, but transformation in one's heart. I think when you come out with a different perspective that you may have originally set out, serving the needs of the community really transfers one's spirit and also continues a cycle of goodwill in the community. So to all of my peers, I feel like I accept this award with you as well, who serve the needs of the community quietly as champions of diversity each year. I accept this with you also. Thank you.
She did a beautiful job, and she was worried about it. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Brian, who's here to speak for Jason. I'm sorry Jason couldn't make it, but he's so conscientious that he called me, let me know that he couldn't change his airline ticket, but that he was willing to write out his speech. So we appreciate how this I want to say to our Vice President for Enrollment Management, is a pipeline initiative. I see it that way. So we're really grateful that this is a way we're addressing that intergenerational idea that your table discussed through this partnership with John Hay High School. The Inclusion and Diversity Achievement Award is presented to Jason Balkman for demonstrated leadership and commitment to inclusion and diversity through innovative thinking and service to the community at Case Western Reserve University and beyond.
Thank you so much. So my name is Brian McDonald, and I'm the Executive Director of the Joan C. Edwards Charitable Foundation. We're located here in Cleveland. And as Marilyn said, I'm here on behalf of Jason Balkman, who could not be here to accept this great honor. And if you'll indulge me for a few moments, I just want to talk a little bit about Jason and then get into his speech, which he was kind enough to write for me. I met Jason last fall, and we've been working together since then to expand on his considerable efforts to diversify the population of medical students here at Case. And I can tell you it's been a real pleasure getting to know Jason, and I can thankfully consider him a good friend now. We share many of the same values, and we both view diversity as plain common sense. Every other path to us appears to be a dead end. And it is the Foundation's belief, and I think Jason's as well, that our viability as a community, a culture, and a society is buoyed, enhanced, and safeguarded by our efforts to include. I think in Jason's speech, he reveals a good bit of his character. He has an acute sense for relations and a gift for metaphors, and this great ability to turn those gifts into action. It is this ability to transform these grand concepts and these elegant metaphors into these measurable actions which endows Jason with some of his immense vitality that the Foundation has found so valuable. And with that, I'm going to start his speech, which I consider to be kind of a posting from the frontiers of medical students who are trying to increase diversity throughout the country. So, suspend your disbelief, and I'm Jason Balkman. It is an honor to be asked to speak to you today about the value of diversity at Case Western Reserve. I will give most of you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you have already discovered in your own lives the value of diversity. For those of you Case nerds like myself who have been inside your science cave and too busy to consider the question, may it suffice to say that diversity is a natural law, a basis for evolution, and an important determinant for our academic enrichment. Given the self-evident value of diversity, today I would like to address a follow-up question. Before doing so, it is important to tell you that I am an engineer by training. He's an electrical engineer, and I have a habit of using physics to connect with people. In fact, I love physics so much that a couple of years ago I started tutoring Cleveland Public High School students in the subject to get better connected with our community. A few of my favorite physics topics are force, work, and power, and today I would like to use these principles to answer the following question: how do we create diversity at Case Western Reserve? And you'll remember that conservation of mass tells us that we cannot create something from nothing. So if we want to create diversity, we need to know where to find it. Some quick online research told me that Case Western Reserve has a 6% African American student population, while Cleveland as a whole has a 51% African American population. Physicists call this a gradient, meaning that the surrounding community is very different from our campus. In other words, we are literally sitting in the middle of diversity. All we need to do to create diversity on campus is to move that mass from the local community onto the campus. And in physics, you'll remember that movements begin with a force. Let's begin by defining terms for force. If you remember, force equals mass times acceleration. If we are talking about a mass of diversity, accelerating that mass towards Case will require some type of action on our part to get a force. For me, action first meant figuring out how high school kids matriculate into Case. I found out that high SAT scores were a big factor, so I asked the following question: how do we help raise the standardized test scores in the Cleveland community? A fellow medical student answered that question by starting an 8-week SAT course at John Hay High School campus, which is just across the street from Case. Meanwhile, teachers there raised funds to purchase test practice books, and we formed a group of medical students willing to do after-school tutoring. So now we have a small acceleration giving rise to a small force, but we realized that if we wanted that force to grow, we were going to need more action. As a result, I've spent a lot of time lately getting more Case medical students and undergraduates involved in this problem. They usually ask upfront, how much work will this require? And after all, work is defined in units of energy, and medical students only have so much energy. Not Jason. I turn to the definition of work then, which is force multiplied by a distance. Since Case already sits in the midst of a mass of diversity, the distance is almost zero. So the amount of work for any medical student or undergraduate should be minimal. It's the greatest sales line I've heard in a long time. I'm usually able to prove this in one afternoon by having Case students walk the 1/4 mile from Case campus to the John Hay campus, where we currently have our force in motion. And if you recall Newton's famous first law, it states that an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Now that I've defined force and work in this context, there's one more variable I need to mention, and that is time. No large movement happens overnight, and we certainly cannot expect to move a massive diversity onto this campus in a single year. But I can say that for the first time in Cleveland Public School District history, John Hay High School, also known as the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine, will matriculate 7 minority students to Case University, and this year we secured a $10 million grant from the Joan C. Edwards Charitable Foundation to fund full-ride Case undergraduate and medical school scholarships for the students. So there is already evidence of a force at work, but long-term, we want to see an even greater effect and a movement of this local mass of diversity into our medical school and faculty. This will enrich our cultural environment at Case and give us a lasting connection to the Cleveland community. This will take time, but let me remind you of the definition of work over time. That definition is power. And on behalf of Jason, I say thank you very much.
I want to thank you, Brian, for that wonderful speech, and we're going to thank Jason for being able to write so well, an engineer who can write well. And at this moment, I'd like to ask Professor Bob Haney, who has worked with Jason, who wanted to say a few words, so we're glad he made it.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here for the whole program, but I just want to let you know that when this kid was 21 years old, he came to Cleveland to go to graduate school from Cincinnati. The thing that amazed me, because Crawford was not there, and when I was looking at grad schools, they took a picture that area was grassy, and I thought Case Western was like Oberlin, you know, sitting on these lofty towers and all this, and there was a school that sat right on the street. So I told the bus driver, let me off at Euclid and the Delbert, and he said, that's Western Reserve. I says, that doesn't look like the picture. So I started grad school, and the thing that amazed me was the paucity of African American students on the undergraduate campus, but even more than that, it was almost non-existent in the graduate school. And I felt, how could a school that sits right in the middle of the city not have African Americans who are part of graduate education? So when Jason came to me, I'm the head of the Robin Society, about he wanted to get involved, and I'm on the board of John Hay, I thought there was a natural mix. So we had the commitment, and our commitment was to improve on that stat of not having black folks in the graduate schools. Because in 40 years of Haney being at Case Western Reserve, looking at African Americans who have come out of the Cleveland public school system, I only know of 3. 3 in 40 years. Dave Johnson, Latul Farrell, and Ed Jackson. So that's not a great number. So we wanted to improve on that by starting this pipeline program. So we had the commitment. Whenever you got commitment, you need the second C, which is called cash. And the cash came from the Joan Edwards Foundation. So you have to have a commitment, and along comes the cash. And with this cash, we're going to have at least one student who comes from John Hay, paid for it undergrad, all the way through medical school. So within the next 10 years, we will overcome that 40-year rule. So my challenge to the professional schools in particular is start programs that are pilot programs. So therefore, you will show that you have the commitment, and therefore when the cash rolls around, you have a program already in place. So my hat's off to Jason, and he's well deserved for this award. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Professor Haney, as an alum of this university. My PhD in English came from here. So we know we have done a few things right, but we have so much work to do. So we thank you for your comments. We thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. I thank all of the winners. I thank all of you all who are doing this good work. I refer to this as the good work. And all of you who are diversity champions, who are diversity change agents, who are joining us in it, we thank you. Inclusive excellence is why we're all here, and I charge you, therefore, to go forth, multiply, and we will see you hopefully this time next year. Have a good day.